So let's look at the most dominant eschatologies, okay? So you have first start with the Jewish eschatology. And the Jews believe that they are the chosen people and they are God's, the Yahweh's favorite people. And the highlight or the apex of their civilization was King David's kingdom, the Davidic kingdom, and King Solomon. Okay, and this was when King Solomon built Solomon's temple, which was the house of God. And this was where Yahweh lived to be with his people. But unfortunately, the Jewish people were not loyal. They were unfaithful. So they started to marry foreign women, which brought in foreign gods. And then Yahweh became annoyed, angry at the infidelity of the Jews. So he left. And this allowed invaders such as the Babylonians and the Assyrians to conquer Jerusalem. And eventually this led to the Jewish diaspora, the scattering of the Jews. But even in the diaspora, they longed to return to Jerusalem to be reunited with their God. And in the Jewish tradition, what the rabbis tell the Jewish people is, when God is ready, when the Jewish people are ready for this reunion, the Messiah will come. The Messiah will lead the Jewish people back to the Promised Land. He will build the nation of Israel, and he will summon the diaspora to return to Israel, and he will build the third temple so that God will come. Eventually, he will face his enemies in the war of Gog and Magog, but he will triumph, and this will usher in the Messianic age. So, as Jewish people, our main responsibility is to reflect deeply on who we are, engage in spiritual alchemy, and once we engage in a long process of redemption, and once our hearts open up to God, then God will send us Messiah. So be a good person and wait and be patient, okay? So that's the standard mainstream Jewish understanding. But then you have these extremists who believe that is not God's intention. God's intention is for the Jews to prove that they love God and they desire reunion with God. And so it must be the Jews to act out first before God sends his Messiah. And that means you must first resurrect, reconstitute the nation of Israel. You must build the third temple. You must fight the war of Gog and Magog. And when the Jews have done all they can, but the entire world seems to have united against Jews, because that's what the world does, actually, unite against Jews. And when God sees that his people are in most desperate need, but he sees that his people have redeemed themselves, have repented, and yearn for reunion with God, then God will intervene and set the world right. And that is when the Messianic age will occur. But you must first make the sacrifice necessary in order to welcome the Messiah and the coming of Yahweh. Okay? So you can see how in the first iteration, yeah, it's interesting. But in the second iteration, there's sort of a passion, an energy, an excitement to it, where it's just like, wow, this is grand historical script being played out. It's all part of God's divine plan. And I can play my part in achieving this divine plan. So why shouldn't I? If I'm truly faithful, if I truly believe in God, if I want to prove myself worthy, shouldn't I do my part to achieve this plan? Okay? So does the Jewish eschatology make sense?